Go somewhere else. I can't take this nonsense anymore. How are you going to blame the defense?
I got the power. Screw green bean. Damn it.
But once you get to the sausage, I feel like we're doing something.
Go Jets.
And that's the other part of it, is that people are insanely jealous of this show. This show gets the best of the best, and it does a different way, with positivity.
He scores!
Ow, my head! No, come on.
What would you give up to see a Jets Super Bowl?
All of my friends and family.
Hit those milk thumbs, boys and girls.
Freeze run.
Hold on to your underwear, ladies, and stand by, bitches. It's now time for Talkin' Jets with your hosts, Matt, Ryan, and Green Bean.
Oh, Becton! Whoa!
With the fourth pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Sauce Gardner.
Let's go! That's what I'm talking about.
New York Jets select Malachi.
Wow!
Let's go.
Yeah! Let's go! I love it.
With the 10th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Garrett Wilson.
Ooh,
Let's go.
Wow, okay.
Let's go.
We get our receiver. Wow.
Jordan Travis,
Wow. All right, yeah.
All right,
Yo, we are having a perfect draft. Cornerback.
Ooh, this draft sucks.
Would be there in the second.
The Jets traded up.
Oh, they did. The Jets traded up. The New York Jets are on the clock.
Let's go. Let's go.
Who's it going to be?
With the 26th pick in the 2022 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select Jermaine Johnson.
Yes! Yes! Oh, let's go! Let's go!
Yeah.
Oh, baby! Let's go!
The New York Jets select Braylon Allen.
Oh, yeah! Let's go!
Well done.
Yes!
Yes!
Jalen Key. I got to be honest with you, I didn't watch much Jalen Key.
Wow. All right.
What the hell just happened?
Welcome to Talkin' Jets. My name's Ryan, and I'll be your pilot tonight. Boys and girls, I got my co-pilots. I got Mr. Green Bean to my this way. I got Mr. Matt O'Leary to my that way. Green Bean, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing all right. I'm feeling a little under the weather, so I'm fighting that. But I'm hoping that the show, as it normally does, puts me in better spirits, Ryan.
O'Leary, how about you? How you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm still caffeinating and trying to recover from our 20 hours of live streaming that we put in over the weekend, but excited to be back with you boys. Long time no see, and excited to get into the draft with the chat as well.
Boys and girls, if you're just hopping in here, make sure you hit that like button for us. It goes a long way towards telling people who haven't watched the show that this is a show worth watching. And for every 10 likes we get on this video, we're going to pick a qualifier for our hat, shirt, mug, pillow, jersey, eggs, giveaway, contestant winner at the end of the show. And boys and girls, if you were part of our live stream, thank you so much for the NFL draft love. We love each and every one of you. And my eye is hurting right now, so I'm going to let someone else take the take the floor.
What happened?
My eye's just like,
What happened?
Bugging out right now.
Injury. Injury
no.
timeout. Injury timeout.
Live stream
I'll be right back.
injuries.
Gotta wipe my face.
See, and they say that podcasting and doing video content is like, this is anything we can do. We got Ryan fighting through injury right now, getting ready to put on a 2-hour stream. This is why he's
That's right.
back.
Yeah, man. He's taking bullets over there. You know?
Shit ain't easy, Green Bean.
This shit
Go
ain't-
through it.
This stuff is not for the squeamish, boys and girls. No doubt about it.
Absolutely. I'm excited to talk with you guys again on this draft. I'm noticing people are starting to put in the chat how they're feeling, like grade wise. Have you taken a look at that yet, Green Bean?
Not so much. I've been on Twitter, but more because the delightful process of listening to everybody fight about it's great, it sucks, that kind of stuff. But I haven't seen many. I haven't dug into like any draft grades or anything. What's going on out there? What are they saying?
Well, right now, even just in our own chat, like we have, I can't pull up the comments because Ryan has that, but Harlan's giving him a C plus. You have 𝐒𝐿𝐫𝐞𝐞 saying there's 3 to 4 starters from this class. Mr. Roberts is saying a lot of draft experts said we had a good draft. So I feel like it's kind of a wide range here. We have some people who I think are down on the Jets after their day 3 and down on the draft maybe after the day 3 that they had. But
Yeah.
I think for me, it's hard to look past what they did the first 2 nights and how well I thought that went.
Yeah, well, I feel the same way. I mean, day 3, I don't think there's too many ways to put sugar on it. I mean, I like 𝐒𝐿�0𝐾 more. There's hope for the edge rusher. Looks interesting. You know what I mean? But it's like the truth is there's no sugar for it. It was way different than we hoped, than we thought. But the truth is that they got 2 immediate starters at the positions that we wanted in the top 2 rounds. And the third guy, in round 3, AZ Thomas, maybe not the position, but the guy's clearly a stud. You know what I mean? So he's got a lot of potential to do some things. We were all upset when Brandon Echols left. So, we replaced him. Again, not what I thought, but so the first 2 days, first 3 rounds were pretty damn solid. And if you're going to hit on one or the other, first 3 or day, the first 3 rounds or the back 4, you're going to pick the first 3 every day of the week. So, yeah, but it's just that reach in the 4th, baby. That's the one. That's the one that does it.
I liked where our draft went. I mean, obviously day 1 and day 2, much higher. We were talking in our group chat. I believe someone had some intel that we were going for Williams was supposed to be our 3rd round pick. Is that right?
Kyle
and they
Williams.
would have traded back up for AZ Thomas towards the back end of the 3rd. If that, I guess, don't know how much truth it is to it, but that's what we had heard.
It's not surprising, right? That kind of fits the narrative. The only 2 wide receivers, I mean, like we linked guys that we liked, like Jaden Higgins and Jack Besh and stuff like that. But Kyle Williams and Arian Smith were 2 guys that it felt like the Jets were legitimately interested in. So that's viable to me.
Yeah, it tracks. The Arian Smith pick, I think I'm just rationalizing it from like I don't know what to expect from him all draft or like all season. Like if I'm looking, like even if you got Kyle Williams, for example, like are you really getting that much more production from Justin Fields with him, like with the amount of times that Fields utilizes wide receiver 2? Like I would have envisioned I guess my way to rationalize like it being an okay draft is if Arian Smith goes for like, runs 50 miles an hour down the sideline and pulls a safety that allows Garrett Wilson to get a first down in a clutch moment. Like, all right, well, he kind of like he's helping, even if he's not catching passes, opening up the area for Garrett, for Mason Taylor, for Brees and all those guys. Malachi Moore, I think, was probably my favorite pick of day 3. I did like the last guy, Barron, we got, Tyler Barron. I thought that was a nice little late round addition that could hopefully push $3.5 million in salary cap savings of, Michael Clemens off the roster. Overall, I feel like the day 3 picks are like special teamers more so than anything else. That's where we'll see their biggest impact. I thought, honestly, I think the undrafted free agents, and we can get into those in a little bit. I really am pleased with some of the guys we picked up after the draft that we didn't necessarily have to spend a draft pick on. Like, would you rather spend, a 7th round pick or a 6th round pick, whatever it was, on Quinn Ewers, or do you like Brady Cook, in undrafted free agency? I thought the Brady Cook edition was a nice sort of ish low key ad. Matt, what about you? Would you rather have? I guess we were talking backup quarterback, but not necessarily wanting to burn a pick on one. But I guess what were your thoughts of the undrafted free agent class, and does that skew maybe some of your grading that you would have otherwise graded the draft?
So not a ton, right? I think the guy who honestly might have the best chance of making an impact as an undrafted free agent is Caden Davis, the kicker. And that's like a huge position of need, right? And if Caden Davis solves the kicking issue, not only this year, but is here for like, I don't know, 5 years, 7 years, something like that, that'd be a home run. And I guess, you know, maybe a couple years from now, we could look back and go, oh, well, they got this guy and this guy who are like decent contributors from UDFA. And then maybe that changes my overall outlook on the grade of the draft. Kind of like, you know, Bryce Huff in, what was that, 2020 or 2021? I forget which year it was. But, you know, moral of the story, I'm not putting a ton of stock into the UDFAs, but I do think it's important to look at that when you're looking back like a couple years from now and talking about a draft class.
Bean, what about you? Any thoughts on the UDFAs that we brought in?
Well, I'm glad we got a kicker. I am. You know, you see teams, you know, every year there's just a handful of teams that use a draft pick on a kicker. As we've talked about ad nauseum, I'm a big fan of it when you need one. Theoretically, if you use a draft pick on one, you only need to do that once every 8-10 years kind of a thing, you know? So they didn't. I mean, look, the Jets not only traded up in this draft, we actually used next year's draft capital, a 5th round pick, to keep it at 7 picks this year. So, you know, I was hoping that they did some other things. One of them was kicker. Like, truth is, I would have rather have gotten like my choice at kicker instead of, you know, like a Tyler Barron or something like that. But they got a kicker in undrafted free agency, so I'm happy about that. Now he looks like, you know, high profile and all this jazz, but he's really accurate from 45 and under, and then over that he's made them, he can do it. But he's significantly less accurate from what I've seen. So, and I'm not going to pretend to know much about him. It's all after the fact that I'm reading stuff and
I think he was
all
2
that.
for
But
4 from 50 plus, I think is what it was.
Yeah. So, you know, look, like I've said this fucking the last 15 years. If I got a kicker and if I have to choose, now optimally I want a strong legged kicker that can make me 55 plus and everything underneath, you know, all the time. That's what I want. But if I have to choose between that allure of a super strong leg or a lock at like 47 and under, I'm taking the lock 9 out of 10 times. Like I really am, because that's where most of your field goals are. You know, then, you know, you're 50% over that, you know, the big game winner and all that kind of stuff. The scenarios present themselves, but the regular day-to-day, that 47 and under is where field goal kickers gotta make it. And that's what we saw last year, is that Zernline didn't make those anymore. That's what was killing us for that 3-game stretch where, you know, if he just would have made them, we would have 3 more wins. And it's a whole different world if he makes those kicks. It's just so crazy. But yeah, so I like him. I'm happy they brought one in. The word on the street today, there was something that snuck out. I don't know how accurate it is that the Jets are planning to move on from Zerline. Makes sense to me. I mean, it looks like he's toast. You know, we kept him around longer than we should have last year. So it looks like he's toast. Nice to have somebody in here. But this guy doesn't make me think that we don't need to bring in competition. They should always have fun, you know, and have another kicker in camp anyway, you know. But he doesn't inspire me. Like, I would still have my ears open for who could potentially be an upgrade. You know, does that make sense? Like, sure. He's good, okay, good. But I'm not shut down. It's not like I found Tucker or one of these guys. You know, if I got Borregales, I'm going to be like, okay, that's my kicker. You know what I mean? I got my kicker. I'll bring a camp body in to, you know, whatever, do some stuff. But I know who my kicker is. So I don't necessarily feel that way. Maybe the Jets do. So either way, I'm happy that they brought him in. I like the running back. What's his name again? Let me find him.
Kid from Michigan.
From Michigan.
Yeah, not Dean Clark. Donovan Edwards. I really like him. And he had like a weird senior year where he fell off a cliff. You know, I was chatting with somebody from Michigan briefly today, and they said, yeah, it was a mystery. They don't know what happened to him. You know, he did really well early in his career, and then he just kind of fell off. So anyway, who knows? I mean, he's like that lightning in a bottle kind of guy. Really exciting potential. The thing is there, what we have to remember is, and Dom and I were talking about it last night, is like, yeah, we love our 3 running backs, but there is redundancy there. You know what I mean? So this regime didn't bring in these 3 running backs to be mimics of one another, you know? 3 kind of bigger body guys that can lay the thunder, all have moves, all good in the passing game. I mean, I think it's great to have that that group, but maybe this regime would prefer to have another guy that has that breakaway speed, can, be a home run hitter from anywhere on the field. And who knows, maybe a guy like Isaiah Davis, he's got some competition, and who knows what'll happen. But I do like the player. So those are the 2 that kind of stand out to me.
So I was taking a look at the kicker. So he's 2 of 4 from 50-plus yards last year, 8 of 9 from 40 to 49, 8 of 10, 30 to 39, perfect inside 30. Had a 57 out of 59 extra point attempts made. Week 1 for him, he had 10 extra points made. That's absurd.
Wow.
That's a silly amount of points. Looks like he missed 2 extra points his entire collegiate career. One thing I noticed when I was going through stuff yesterday, I was kind of flip-flopping back and forth between Fitzgerald, Borregales, and Caden Davis. And it was the amount of touchbacks, and I think it was hold on, where was it? His hang time's a lot bigger. It's like half a second longer in hang time on average than the other 2 guys for kickoffs. And then his return percentage is 10%, where the other guys, I think, are 20-something%. So this guy puts it out of the back of the end zone consistently. So I guess that's kind of nice. It's got to score, though, to get the opportunity to do that. Yeah, Matt, was there a undrafted free agent that sort of spoke to you that you're interested in? Like, where do you kind of stand on the extra guys we brought in?
Outside of the kicker that I talked about already?
Well, I mean, if you want to talk kicker, we can talk kicker. If you want to talk kicker, Donovan Edwards, any of the guys that we have.
Yeah, I think the kicker was the one that I brought up before that I like the best. But for Edwards, that's an interesting name because he at one point was viewed very, very highly and then had a couple injuries. So obviously for me, what I want to see from him in camp is just where is he at injury-wise and in the recovery process. But if he was ever anywhere close to what he is earlier in his collegiate career, I absolutely think it's worth, giving him just a few bucks to come in as an undrafted free agent to compete for a spot. It doesn't hurt anything. So I like that one too.
Greenbean, is 6'3", 309 pounds enough meat to clog the middle for run stuffing one technique?
It can be. It's not what I'm looking for. 309, that's the floor. You know what I mean? I like 340. That's what I like. 330 to 355. That's kind of what I'm looking for. But 309, it's not small. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, look, they brought one in. Look, we were all a little bit surprised, let's call it, that the Jets in the deepest, strongest defensive tackle draft potentially ever, they didn't get one. So they addressed a lot of positions, that we thought they should. So they definitely spread the wealth, but I thought defensive tackle, especially, when we took some of these other guys, Arian Smith, Francisco Mawinoa, Dom is saying that G is pronounced with an N. That's what he's saying. I got to listen to Dom C until proven otherwise. Francisco Mawinoa. So I mean, I could have went for a defensive tackle, because there were some good ones there. There were guys that looked like they could definitely, get some reps, So yeah, it's a little surprising. So at least in the undrafted free agent class, they brought. Is it just one? Oh, 2. They brought in 2. One from Clemson and one from Fresno State. Is it? Where is he? This guy? No, West Virginia. Fresno State. What is that? Dean Clark. Well, what position is he? Safety? Is that what he is?
Yeah.
SAF. What is that?
Yeah,
Safety.
Safe. Yeah, that's what they do. Safe. Why do they do that?
That's a weird way to write it.
The only one that
feel
they
like just an
spell.
S.
That and edge.
Edge.
Like QB. Yeah, I guess because it's one letter. I mean, I don't know. Who am I? I guess it's safety. You can clearly see it now that we're talking about it. I see it clear as day. It says safety. Yeah, I mean, but yeah, so they brought in two. Let's see what they do. Again, we have Fedarian Mathis and we have LT3 in the mix. So, and they can, there's other, mid-tier rotational types, that they can bring in. So, but I'm glad to see that they put two in the undrafted free agent class. This isn't the most inspiring undrafted like last year. I liked a bunch. A couple years, like you said, mentioned 2020. I was actually excited about that class. We saw a few guys stick around. We saw Bryce Huff, obviously. We saw what the hell was that real fast guy? I couldn't stand his ass.
Kenny Yeboah?
No, hey. No, he was but he was there. And he was 21. But Javelin Guidry. That's the guy.
Oh,
he stuck around a few years. I never liked him. But then there was Lamar Jackson. He hung out. He was the recipient of the zero blitz touchdown against the Raiders. Yeah, he gave us another week in the Trevor Lawrence dream. So yeah, so I don't know. These guys, I don't, but there's a lot of them. So let's see. I always like the undrafted free agents. Those are the guys that are going to, a lot of the time, that's the guys that are going to try to, they're going to work the hardest, So that's where guys rise. So yeah, I'll have my eye on those guys.
Gus Hartwig, the center from Purdue, is an interesting one. I think we needed interior offensive line help. 6'5", 309, 50 career starts across 5 seasons. Guy graded out well in every single one of his seasons as a pass blocker and has gotten better as a run blocker as each season kind of went on. So over 3,400 snaps under his belt. Looks like he gave up 3 sacks over the last 3 years. So like pretty solid. No positional flexibility from what it looks like. I mean, it looks like he played guard for maybe 200 snaps his freshman year. But then there's that big tackle from Germany through the international player pathway. Guy did 38 reps on the bench press, which is 5 more than any other player at the combine. 6'5", 318 tackle from Germany. Boy. I'll take it. Take some swings. It feels like there's a lot of guys. When I was going through this, basically the entire day 3 in undrafted free agency felt like they're all much older players. Like our first 3 picks are by far the youngest players on like our team, or at least of the class that's coming in. Everyone else seems to have been a little more seasoned. Yeah. Matt, any thoughts on anything Bean or I just said?
No, I'm with you guys on it. I love the international kid too. I'm glad you brought him up. The strength, that's what I'm going to hitch my wagon to. This summer and be like, oh yeah, every time we're talking about like, oh, the Jets, the third stringers are out in practice and this guy had a good day. I want to mention his name. Be like, well, he did have 38 reps on the bench press. He's strong as shit. So maybe he kicks Carter Warren or Max Mitchell off the roster. I could just see that being a talking point this summer.
Mumtaz comes in and says, Arian Smith trade made PFF biggest reach list, picking him with Jalen Lane on the board is inexplicable. JL destroyed the combine and is a nightmare on special teams. I think they wanted someone speedy, and Kyle Williams and Arian Smith were the only 2 guys that they brought in for top 30 visits that sort of fit that profile well. And I think we were saying this on draft day. I think they predetermined who they wanted to make sure was on this roster and just didn't care about draft value, which is probably one of the more frustrating things about day 3, because it felt very targeted as opposed to like more planned and nuanced. Matt, your thoughts on taking Arian Smith over Jalen Lane?
Well, I just hated the Arian Smith pick in general with where they got him. I think what you just said is so perfect, where they didn't really care about, necessarily the consensus rankings or other teams' rankings on these guys. They kind of just want to ensure that they got, the names that they really liked or wanted on day 3. And Greenbean was saying it during the draft stream too. I think the exact quote was, these guys, they have some work to do in learning the board on day 3. And it's so appropriate, because that's exactly how I think most people came away with it. And again, that's not killing the entire draft. I think if you look at the sum of the draft, you feel pretty good about, Armand Membu and Mason Taylor and AZ Thomas. I think even Malachi Moore, like those are 4 guys who you see a path to, starting eventually one day for this team. But if there was a criticism, I think they did reach on some of their guys on day 3, particularly, and Smith would fit that bill. I just don't think you need to spend a 4th round pick on a guy who's going to be a gunner, a special teamer, and probably like your 6th receiver. But I hope I'm wrong. I hope Arian Smith is awesome. I hope, AG is calling everyone out and see, we really did know better than everyone else. And again, I'd rather this team be awesome than me be proven right about a guy I'm not super high on.
Quick blurb on Arian Smith too. So he did 5 years at Georgia, 40+ yard catches in 5 of 14 games, had 300-yard games, which were against Alabama, Mississippi State, and UMass. Only allowed 23 yards in punt returns over a 28-game span. And then the injury stuff was really a big concern. Torn meniscus and broken fibula in 2021. Missed 4 games with a high ankle sprain in 2022 and a fractured ankle in 2023. So really only one strong, healthy season in 2024. And from what I've heard, it's kind of like he's really good, he's really fast, but you don't really want to have to rely on him. So if he's going to be utilized primarily on special teams, like Matt said, I think it's probably not even just a little bit. It was a reach going for a special teams guy in the 4th round. Being anything to add with picking Arian Smith over Jalen Lane or other prospects at the time?
Yeah, well, there was just so many there. You can pick your name, see, the thing is with the 4th round, the early part of the 4th round is that it's one of the sweet spots of the draft, because there's there are these rounds really at the end of the days, right? So you get that extra time to kind of reset and look at everything. But what happens in the beginning of the 4th round is there are guys that you had totally assumed were going to go in the first 3 rounds, and they pop through for whatever reason. It's not like, oh, there must be something wrong with it. It happens with them. It happens in every draft, because teams are picking, what they need, and everybody's boards are different, and there are guys that everybody has rated high, just they didn't get taken yet. So that first, 15 spots in the 4th round is like an opportune area to get just a little bit more value than just a 4th round pick. And what we chose to do was reach and get somebody that likely would have been there with your 2nd, 5th. And that's the problem with it. And Matt, mentioned it. What we were talking about is, look, the Jets have a pattern. We like to bring in rookie head coaches and we couple them with rookie GMs, and they get all excited, and we place all this expectation because we just had so much disappointment, and these guys are going to this and that. And then we have to watch them. Our expectations get high, and then we have to watch them do what somebody who's never done it before does, is they make mistakes, and they do things a little bit unorthodox. They're not fluid like a GM that's been doing it for 10 years. Not that we ever get those guys, because we fire them before they ever get to 10 years. Joe Douglas had 6, so maybe that's about as close as we need to get. But some guys, like they when they do it a long time, they know how to do it. It's fluid. These guys, it just felt like day 3, they were, like Ryan said, they had their eyes set on their heartthrobs, and they were going to get them at all costs, no matter what the value, the draft, the evolution of the draft was showing you. And that's what, you can probably expect some of that in the games too, guys. I'm sorry to say it. Aaron Glenn, he's a coach. He's not just defense. He's disciplined, all the great things. But we're likely going to have to watch him make mistakes. It's just what happens. We continually do this, and then we get all mad, and by year 2, we want him fired. So it's just, for me anyway, I've had to kind of drop my dukes a little bit, because Malachi Moore I like. I do get why they would like Arian Smith, just not where he was. And this is what you look in Joe Douglas's first draft. I was saying, like I thought Bryce Hall was going to be a little bit earlier. There was LaMichael Pirine, who I liked, who I thought he was overdrafted. He was going to be a little bit later. Like there was a few picks of Joe Douglas's that were like, okay, well they're good players, good prospects to take a swing at, but where he took them, it seemed like he was reaching, right? And that was my rub with the 2020 draft, his first one, which was also the COVID draft. So, but yeah, so you just got to endure this shit. They don't know how to do it yet. And you'd think, look, we've never done it and we have like this idea, but it's much easier to be the guy yelling at what's done than the guy actually making the decisions. It's a whole different weight. It's a whole different thing. So, I don't know. I'm giving him a little bit of benefit of the doubt. I like Malachi Moore in that group. And who knows, man? It wouldn't be the first time that there was a guy that they drafted that I never heard of that 2 years later was one of my favorite guys, you know what I mean, on the team. So it happens. Let's let him coach and let's let him see what they do.
Boogie Down Bronx, I'll come back to yours in just a second. I do want to announce the winners if you guys did miss them. So Swamp Ranger won a shirt over the weekend. Did we get your email? I will check all the emails after this show. Admittedly, I've kind of unplugged myself a little bit the last few days after 20 days of streaming, so I'll take a look at it. But we got our jersey winner from night one was Amir Foes. Then Sean Kenny won a pair of Tailgate Joe season passes. Arbiv won a shirt. David Bruce won a hat. Joey R won a shirt. Vladdy P won a shirt. Adam Phillips won a hat. Swamp Ranger won a shirt. Jake won. He won a hat, but then ended up getting eggs, so he's going to get eggs sent to him. We got Ron Weiss winning a pair of Tailgate Joe season passes. Same with Eric Samuelson. Both won pairs of season passes for Tailgate Joe's Tailgate. And then Bishop won the 2 100 level tickets and the tailgate courtesy of Tailgate Joe. So if you guys did win something, please make sure to reach out to us. jetstalk247@gmail.com or talkinjetshow@gmail.com. Let me get in contact with you, get your shirt size, get your hat size, or how to get this stuff out to you guys. But bunch of winners from this past weekend. Boogie Down Bronx comes in and says, not sure we are much better than we were last year. We're not better at cornerback, and we're not better at wide receiver or defensive tackle. So
wait, what? How can they not be better at corner?
I mean, I think we lost DJ Reed, so it's a matter of like, do you value DJ Reed over Stevens over, the rookie AZ Thomas? Like, I like AZ Thomas a lot. I don't really know what to expect out of Stevens. I would say cornerback's more of a push for me than anything else. I think you're kind of investing into the future of that position. Wide receiver, I agree, we're not better at, obviously, without Devontae Adams. But I think with the quarterback we have, you're not going to utilize the depth at wide receiver that you could otherwise use if you had Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. And with defensive tackle, it might be a push for me. I mean, obviously we don't have Solomon Thomas and some of the guys that are on one-year deals, but I'm not necessarily sure it means we're going to be a worse run defending team. Like, I think there were holes that were plugged that this regime is kind of taking the stance of like, let's see what this roster was. It was a top-level defense just a few years ago. We may not have to reinvent the entire wheel here. I think the defense could take a step back. Obviously, no C.J. Mosley. I think that leadership's going to be pretty critical. And, obviously we need to prove that we could stop the run. But, Matt, your thoughts on Boogie Down Bronx's comment, not better at cornerback or wide receiver or defensive tackle?
Well, what version of DJ Reed? Is it first half of the season when he was trying, or second half when he gave up and wanted to get out of here? Would be my question.
And that's hard to gauge the defense too, like, because I feel like after Salah got let go, there was very clearly a shift in mindset, and then once it kind of got too far away, like even by the time the Texans game happened in October, the season was basically over. Like, we had lost too many games at that point, and at that point, I think you're just having guys like almost going to a self-preservation mode, and you're not getting their 100% effort. Being your thoughts on the cornerback, wide receiver, or defensive, or I guess Matt, if you had more about the wide receiver and defensive tackle stuff,
Yeah,
and then being
just I was gonna say the coaching staff also sucked last year too, and was part of that. So, like, I get it. It wasn't a perfect draft. I would have loved to see them add a better wide receiver, and I think the defensive tackle would have been something that I would have liked to see them actually draft. Waiting for UDFA's. But they stunk last year, but their coaching staff was also horrible too. So the expectations were significantly higher a year ago than what they are now. I don't think it's unreasonable to think they're a better than 5-win team, which no one expected last year.
Bean, what about you? What do you think about the cornerback, wide receiver, and defensive tackle rooms being not better than they were last year?
Well, the cornerback, I think you got a point with the cornerback. I mean, we love DJ Reed, and he's we don't know. We got 2 question marks, really, right? And don't forget, we lost Eccles as well. So we lost guys that have been here a few years and that we thought highly of. We replaced them with 2 guys, in Brandon Stevens. We don't know what he is in man, right? We're hoping that the man defense thing is the saving grace, right? That's what we're hoping. We'll see. And then AZ, he's a rookie, so no matter what, we don't know what he's going to be. So I think there's an argument there. Defensive tackle. I mean, who did we have? Lecky Fotu, who did literally dick balls for us, and he came in for he was out the first 5 games, came in, got hurt, and that was the end of him. So, and then we had Javon Kinlaw, who I remember I really liked the signing of bringing him in, but he had a couple of maybe 2 games where he was an impact. The rest was complete garbage, and sometimes even detrimental. He was a flop. So, I mean, who else? Solomon Thomas, he was solid. He made his plays here and there, but not nothing. So we have Fedarian Mathis this year. You'll see an increased role in LT3. And we brought in Noddy, who's definitely more solid than any of the guys that we let go. He's he's not going to get you all excited to call your mom about this great new player the Jets got or anything like that, but he's solid. So I don't know. I don't know if defensive tackle, I'm buying it. I think we definitely could have upgraded, but we weren't necessarily a stellar unit last year either.
Fletch comes in and says, no offense, but you guys loved the draft last year and the team was terrible. So I'm going to hold my judgment until I've seen these guys play. Well, take a look at some of the picks we really liked. We really liked Braylon Allen. We really liked the Jordan Travis pick, but the Jordan Travis pick really was kind of hinging on Rodgers being here an additional year. Once the new regime came in, you kind of have to understand that the Travis pick probably is going to get thrown out the window. Especially some of the maybe contentious situations that went on with Travis towards the end of the previous regime. We like Olu. I think he's a starter. Malachi Corley, all 3 of us like the player. We don't know what the heck happened as far as like Malachi Corley at all costs or, whatever the text message was. Just did not get many opportunities. So we still like the draft class from last year. There's still good players that you got from it. But, is it the Sauce, Garrett, Brees, JJ draft? No, of course not. That's a once in a 30-year type occurrence. Bean, let's go to you first. What are your thoughts about how we liked last year's draft, and how does that maybe impact perception of this draft and maybe positive or negative feelings one way or the other?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anything happened. Olu came in, played stellar. Malachi Corley, look, he falls into that category, man. Just like, everything going on with the offense. I mean, dude, I'm just going to say it like this. I've been saying it a couple times recently, but the offensive coordinator that we started the year with last year is currently unemployed. The guy who replaced him as offensive coordinator last year is currently a wide receivers coach. Our tight ends coach last year is currently unemployed. So there are major pieces to what we were hoping would, and look, the truth is we were depending on Aaron Rodgers a lot. That draft class is very good. You saw the potential of Braylon Allen. You saw the potential of Isaiah Davis. You saw Olu Fashanu come in and literally change the season of the offensive line. Tyron Smith was a turnstile last year, and they kept him in. When Olu came in at the left side, everything changed for the offensive line and is giving us this hope for this year. The Corley thing, dude, he got no playing time. And you can say whatever you want. I know where I land on it. You can argue with me. I really don't give a fuck. I'm not listening to anybody. I have enough data to support that offensive staff sucked and didn't know what they were doing. 4 years, they developed 0 offensive players. Not undrafted, but free agents that came here regressed under that offensive staff. So I just don't want to hear it. And we had 2 offensive staffs in 4 years while Saleh was here. So I look at Malachi Corley as we have no idea what he is. He was a badass in college. He was a 3rd-round pick for every reason in the world. And let's see what he can do this year. I still like last year's draft class very much.
Matt, your thoughts on last year's draft class and maybe the underwhelming nature of the season? How does that impact your feeling on this draft class? What are your thoughts?
Was it Olu Fashianu's fault that the Jets sucked last year? Like, I don't understand where Fletch is coming from on this. Like, they found a guy in the 1st round who likely is going to be their long-term starting left tackle. They found on day 3 2 running backs who, in year 1 served the role as depth guys, and I think we'll continue to do that. You need, a running back 2 and a running back 3, especially if they're going to be run heavy. I'd imagine we see much more of both Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis even than what we saw a year ago. Even the Malachi Corley criticism that you have, which is legit because we didn't really see anything from him at all. I will say, while I like the player, I did think it was strange that going into day 2, Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh were like, Malachi Corley, no matter what, like it has to be him on day 2. And that, it was leaked that he was his number 4 wide receiver in the entire draft class. I do remember going, that's a little strange. That's a little off. So I don't think this is a fair assessment from Fletch. I put significantly more of the blame on some of the veteran additions that were made last year. They brought in Tyron Smith in free agency. He was horrible. He stunk. Allen Lazard and Mike Williams didn't really do anything for the Jets, unfortunately. They had veteran guys. They trade for Hassan Reddick, came in and did absolutely nothing. So I just can't look at last year's rookie class. Maybe if you want to just say, oh, well, Corley was a 3rd rounder and you got 0 from him. Okay, fair. But your 1st round pick looks like a hit, and it looks like you got at least 2 depth running backs in the class as well. And that's only after 1 year. Let's look at the class after 2 or 3 years. And even if it stays the same, Olu's a starter and is solid. And they have, 2 guys on the roster at running back who are, key role players as RB2, RB3, and special teams guys. Well, that's an okay draft. Again, it's not 2022, but it's not horrible. We've seen significantly worse drafts than that. So I don't agree with this at all.
Yeah, we just watched one.
Mumtaz comes in with a super chat. Says, big names have left Jets and scored big contracts elsewhere. Doesn't mean they are still great, but fact is that we replaced most of them with bargain bin. So let's kind of talk about that. Talk it out. The main guys we lost were DJ Reed, who we replaced with Stevens and AZ Thomas. I don't know if I'd call them bargain bin. I mean, bargain bin in the sense of like, okay, maybe the talent level for Stevens doesn't justify the contract. And AZ Thomas, we got, a round later than we probably should have. So I think while he's cheaper, I don't know if I'd call that bargain bin. But like, what other guys did we really lose? Like Devontae Adams was going to leave. We were never going to restructure him. I can't even really factor that into like me being upset at all. What other big contracts did we get? We lost Morgan Moses was irritating because like I felt like we could have matched that for a year. But if you got Membu, like you kind of want him to start anyway. So that sort of neutralized that side of things. Who else am I missing? I'm missing some guys in here.
Well, they got comp. That's what my response to this was going to be comp picks. He says bargain bin. I say comp picks. 4th rounder for losing Hassan Reddick. 7th rounder for losing Tyler Conklin. They just didn't do their typical Jets spending spree in the offseason. They did, for the last few years, they've signed a lot of big name guys. I mean, the Aaron Rodgers trade in 2023, you sign Allen Lazard. And then this past year, Tyron Smith and Mike Williams and trade for Hassan Reddick. And, that route didn't really work either. Again, the very different expectations. This is year one of a regime. You're trying to set the building blocks. You're not necessarily going to go out spending balls to the wall in year one of a retool.
Bean, what are your thoughts about the big contracts that might have been gained from other players that left the Jets and we went bargain bin shopping?
Yeah, I mean, Mumtaz, you got to look at, what are we doing? Matt just was alluding to it. It's like, so we let a bunch of, so let me just tell you. So Jets, the way you said that, big names have left the Jets and scored big contracts. So who are we talking about? We talking about 𝐒𝐿∞ He scored a huge contract, $45 million, 30 guaranteed. Are we talking about Hassan Reddick? I mean, he's toast. He held out all year. For what reason? He made $0.00 more after the holdout than he did before the holdout. Why did he do that? Is that a big name? Solomon Thomas. He went out and got paid. Is he a big name? I mean, I don't know, Mumtaz. I think I get the point, but I don't think you can say we let Davante Adams go. That's a big one, and he got paid, and he should have got paid. I am of the school of thought that you could have figured out some way to trade him. But again, we're looking at a rookie GM who doesn't know that. He's just trying to quiet the building. So what they're doing is it's addition by subtraction, right? They're trying to quiet the noise so they can instill discipline, and they're bringing in players to fill roster spots while they can build their team. I mean, they want to compete this year, but make no mistake, man, they have no illusions that we're going to be the championship team holding up the Lombardi at the end of the year. There's no illusions of that. So, again, I don't know how many big names. Davante Adams qualifies. Whatever Aaron Rodgers does, we let him go. That's certifiably a big name. But who else was there? DJ Reed, you could say. DJ Reed is another one. But he didn't want to be here. He made it very clear. And why would he, Mumtaz? Why would he? You can't lasso somebody around their ankles. You can franchise tag them if you want and go that route. But why? You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't want to be here. You franchise tag him, and for what? We're not going anywhere this year. Like, why do that? So they let some guys go. I don't think too many big names were on this team that we let go. Tyron Smith retired. He just announced that a couple of weeks ago that he retired week 4. We just didn't tell anybody. He just announced it this week, early last month. That's what happened, because he was done. But yeah, man, I mean, look, it's their first year. You want them to kind of just use the draft. We got our right tackle. The offensive line done. It is done. You get your young athletic tight end in here. I would have liked another wide receiver. Like if it was Kyle Williams, I would feel significantly better today than I do. I'm not miserable, but if it was Kyle Williams, man, and he went, 4 picks before us or something like that?
Just before. Yeah, it was like within 5 picks, I think.
Yeah. So, it's one of those things. It's just one of those things. I think this regime has a little bit to learn, Mumtaz, and I think we're going to have to once again endure it. If it was me in the draft room, I guarantee you guys would be going, where do we line up for the fellatio? That's what you guys would be doing. I'd have to have fellatio parties after every draft.
Feel the green beans. Landed.
That's what would have to happen. I don't know. I don't know why. It's the worst thing in the world being a fan, especially of a shitty team. Ryan was talking about it. Ryan or Matt, I forget before. But did you? I guess. I mean, Ryan, I don't even know if this is good to say, but about the scouts. Can I say that?
Yeah, go for it.
So it turns out that last year the Jets were running with 6 too few scouts, like 6 fewer scouts than most other NFL teams. Like, why are we doing that? So we're at a deficiency. And like, here we are as fans, and we buy these clothes and we watch these fucking games, and we got to just continually be stuck enduring the process while people learn on the job, which is why I was screaming for Vrabel and Flores the whole time. Guys who've already made these mistakes. That's just what I wanted. You know what I mean? Now I'm old. I'm running out of time here. I'm not old, but I'm definitely not Ryan. You know what I mean? Or Matt. So I've been here a long time, and it's like every couple years we got to just watch and endure this process of them learning and rebuilding and all that shit. It's frustrating, Mumtaz. Like it really is. But there's not too much that they did this offseason that I think is like sacrilege. Like the 𝐒𝐿𝐵𝐞 offseason and draft were ridiculous. Like that, I was like, oh my God. Like, what is happening? Like when they decided to hire Adam Gase, I couldn't believe that I now had a couple years. I was hoping it was 1 or 2, and thankfully it was. But I was like the next couple of years of my life are going to be miserable. Like, there's no way this guy is going to be it. There's just, I mean, how anybody can look at him and say, you're the guy. He's coaching where the NFL's going, Christopher Johnson said. Yeah, no, he's not. He's coaching in his last spot. And then he's going out of the NFL. That's where he's going. So, and we could all see it, and it's very frustrating being in this position of literally zero control. The only thing we control is that our rookies get Pepsi fucking Rookie of the Week awards. That's the only thing we can control. And you see how we do it. When we can control something, what happens? Put our guy up there. I dare you. You know what I mean?
First place every time.
Every time. It's unfair. It's unfair how ridiculous we are. So it sucks, quite frankly. It sucks to have to watch and get excited, and they do these things, and you just know. You just know. You'll hold out hope. We do it okay, maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they're good at they're going to be developing, better than we're used to and all that shit. But here we are again, and we just got to do it. It sucks. For all you young guys, I hope it doesn't last as long. I mean that sincerely.
We had an opportunity when Hess was like selling the team. We got Woody. Then we got Brick. Then we got sad. And then we got real sad. I don't know. Fingers crossed things change and you just hit the right pick on the right players, get the right coaches, and hopefully it all works out. Landon says, can you see Michael Carter II being Glenn's Brian Branch or Malachi Moore possibly being Brian Branch? I think Glenn mentioned Brian Branch when talking about Malachi Moore. I mean, if it's true, if this guy like projected as like a second round corner at one point, I like the 5-year starter at Alabama. I don't know if they're drawing the comparison just because of the Alabama connection. Dangerous roaming ball hawk is what Connor Rogers, or how Connor Rogers described him. Ability to play man-to-man or deep in coverage. Flexibility is kind of what I want to see. Like Stevens has the corner safety flexibility. Guys that can kind of either drop back deep or come up on the line of scrimmage. I think those are benefits. I'm not so sure Malachi Moore is going to be like a around the line of scrimmage guy as much as he's going to be a little bit deeper. I don't know. Matt, any thoughts on the Jets version of Brian Branch? Is he on the roster?
I think Moore would be more likely to do that role than MC2. Now, MC2 did play safety in college, and the Jets kind of turned him into a nickelback. So I guess it's possible, but I just think how Glenn talked about Branch and how he talked about Moore made me believe that he's going to have Moore in like various different roles, whether at deep safety, line him up in the slot to go against the slot receiver, have him come down towards the line of scrimmage, kind of your do-it-all guy. I see that role for more so for Malachi Moore.
What about you, Bean? Thinking about the Brian Branch type role on the Jets defense?
Yeah, I mean, Aaron Glenn did mention him. He also mentioned, what's his name? Your boy from Alabama. What's the guy's name? The wide receiver comparing the kid that can't catch. What the fuck's his name? He's right there in front of me. Aaron Smith. Who's the guy?
Georgia.
He mentioned. No, but who's the kid he mentioned?
Jameson Williams.
Yes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
He compared them as well. I don't know. I get what you're trying to do, but dude, can we stop that? But anyway, he did mention Brian Branch with Malachi. I like Malachi Moore. I think that's a decent pick at 130. That's a good one. Let's see what he does. But I don't know, man. I don't know what Aaron Glenn's going to do here. It's Steve Wilkes' defense, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean,
it's true, right?
Yeah, it may not be so like, Aaron Glenn defense as much as it is Wilkes defense. So seeing how
Yeah,
he
I'm not
runs
sure.
it could be drastically different than Glenn. Let's see, where were we? Peter says pressure is on the staff to truly coach up these free agents, draftees, and undrafted free agents. Besides cutting Zerline and Clemens to save money, do we lose anyone else? I think we'll obviously have camp cuts. We have a 90-person roster heading into camp, and then you got to trim it down. I think you'll see some of the guys like Gibson and Brownlee, if he's still on the roster. I think you'll see some of those bubble players start to get shed away in favor of some of these undrafted free agents. Obviously, our draft picks as well. I don't think there's any major player that I see leaving. I think more than likely you might see us not re-up contracts and allow them to leave after the season. I could see one of the guards leaving after the season if we can't retain one of them. Lazard's going to leave after the season. I think Reynolds is only on a 1-year contract. Just going through names in my head. Depending on if they trade Brees, I think that could be a potential situation. I hope that happens. If it's going to happen, I hope it happens closer to the deadline. Give him an opportunity to try to raise his draft stock. But I don't think there's anyone really of note. Matt, any thoughts on where the Jets could either save some money or players that you might lose via cut or release?
Yeah, so Zerline and Clemens, I think, are the two obvious ones that jump out that Peter brings up. But, I think maybe some of the Saleh regime favorites or just guys that were drafted in that era, it wouldn't shock me if one of Carter Warren or Max Mitchell get cut, just because some changes. Same thing, is Chaz Surratt still kicking around on this roster somewhere?
Yeah.
I thought he was was he a free agent last
year?
year?
Maybe he is. Zaire Barnes, guys like that, who were drafted a couple years ago that are bottom of the roster guys that, maybe the last regime liked, but eventually this new regime, they want to put their stamp on this roster. So that means, guys are going to be cleared out and guys that, we maybe once liked at a time. I know Greenby mentions it all the time, but Saleh and the last staff, they love Xavier Gibson. He got the punt return job, had the great week 1 2 years ago, and got basically 2 years of run out of that. But I don't know how much longer that's going to last for players of that ilk.
Being any thoughts on players that we might be moving off of or, either saving money on?
Well, I think Clemens is way up top of the list. I mean, he could be a guy that I could see the staff liking. I can see them. Don't forget, man, the previous regime asked Clemens to gain weight and then lose weight, and they did a lot. He was very much a team player. He does boneheaded shit, and he wasn't all that impactful. But I could see him being a player that the regime would like as a rotational guy. Problem is he costs $3+ million. So that's a nice place to save $3 million, if you're looking for it. So I don't know. He's definitely one. Yeah, I think Xavier Gibson has got to go, but we didn't do enough. We brought in some guys. I don't know. Maybe he'll probably stick. They'll expose Xavier Gibson to waivers, and if he makes it through, he might be a guy that they bring back. But yeah, I don't know. I think also some guys that we were rooting for last year. What's the guy's name? Braden McGregor, the defensive end. Some of those guys we had hope for a little while. Maybe Eric Watts. LT3, I think, is a stud. That guy's the real deal. Well, whatever his role is remains to be seen, but I think the talent is evident. You put him in for one play and he's in the backfield. You know what I mean? So he's just one of those guys. I think that he'll make it. But yeah, I think, a lot of guys that we were having hope for. Matt mentioned Zaire Barnes. We didn't do much at linebacker. We have Jamin Davis here. Sitting around nice and quietly. He was a first-round pick a handful of years ago. So he's here. Zaire Barnes is here. But I think, Clemens is just way up top. I wouldn't be surprised if they kept him, but that money, man, $3 million for that guy just doesn't make sense.
Danger Zone says, our rooks and sophomores, which ends up being the best pick / return on investment? So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach here. Actually, you know what? I have my guy. but I'll ask Matt first. What do you want? What do you think? Which of our rookies or sophomores ends up being the best pick / return on investment?
Olu. I know he's a first rounder, so that's a little bit of a cop out, but I think he has, good left tackle, plus starter, Pro Bowl level left tackle kind of potential. And to me, that's the second most important position behind quarterback. So I get it. It's a first round pick and maybe a little bit of a cop out, right? Because when you think best ROI, you think maybe some of the day 2 or day 3 guys, but I just think he's the best player of the last 2 draft classes and at an extremely premium position.
Bean, what about you? Out of our rookies and sophomores, which ends up being the best pick or best return on investment?
Ooh, you know what? I think we might be pleasantly surprised, or maybe not even, but I think we might be shocked a little bit by their use of the running back. So we have Brees Hall, Braylon Allen, and
You were going exactly where I was going to go.
I don't even want to talk
you
right now. You take it.
No,
I'm
no,
so beat up.
No, you hit the
I
spot.
want you guys to know every word I utter is coming from some mechanism inside me that I don't even know where it's coming from. Like between every time I talk, I like degrade, and you ask me a question, I just I don't even know where it's coming from. So I'm in rough shape. I'm degrading before your eyes.
No, finish your thought, and then I'll add on to it because I think you were spot on going right there with the running backs.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to find out that this might not be where you're going. I wouldn't be surprised to find out that like a Braylon Allen takes reps away, like serious reps away from Brees, and maybe a mid-season kind of a thing. He's available, like something like that. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not rooting for it, and I think if you give Brees the ball, he's going to prove it. But I wouldn't be surprised. I think there's some of that stuff's going to go on. From this draft class, I'll say, I think Membu's clearly going to be the guy. And like Matt said, it's a cop-out, maybe, but he's the guy. That's why you took him at 7 instead of waited till pick 130 to see if he's still hanging around.
So I was going the same route as you, Bean, thinking about the running back position and the flexibility it gives the Jets potentially in trading Brees Hall. I mean, if we didn't have Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, you're probably looking at holding on to Brees, not even thinking about trading him at that point, and then you're probably looking at a franchise tag. If you feel comfortable in the 2 running backs and it allows you to trade Brees for, let's say you can get a 3rd-round pick out of him at some point, that's a huge return on your investment for, not having to also then pay Brees that kind of money. And for that same sort of rationale, I'm going to pivot towards A.Z. Thomas in this draft. I think from a value perspective, it gives you some interesting opportunities, getting a premium position around later than he was, potentially expected to go. I don't think Sauce is going anywhere, but in the event he does, this move could allow you, if he plays well, the ability to trade, Sauce or, whatever. So I think that's where the value lies in guys maybe outside the first round that aren't necessarily looked at as premium selections right now, but give you some flexibility moving forward. Boogie Down Bronx says there were much better players on the board in the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round. I hope the players we got work out. I'm a Jets fan. I hope the players we work out. I'm a Jets fan. Right? Like regardless of how you feel about the selection of a given player, it burns me up when I watch Jet fans like almost actively take pride in watching a player fail with us. Like I want to see every player we drafted be the best version of themselves they could possibly be. I'll always have in my back pocket like, hey, I don't know if I really like the Arian Smith pick. I hope he proves me wrong. But like, there's no part of me that's going to be like, oh, I can't believe we didn't go with this defensive tackle. Like I'm going to legitimately hate this receiver pick for the next 3 years or whatever it is. Matt, what are your thoughts on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round value as far as players and the talent that might have been left on the board? And I like his mindset as far as I hope the players work out. I'm a Jets fan.
Yeah, I think you definitely can make that case in the 4th and 5th round. We talked a lot about Arian Smith already on this show, but just another one for me too. I can't get there on AZ Thomas now. Full transparency on day 2, like I really wanted the Jets to take a wide receiver because I look at that as such a glaring need. But for what Thomas is, and he should have been a top of the second round guy, or late first round guy, and they got him at 73. So like I won't kill him on the value. I think you could have a legit criticism of maybe they should have taken a defensive tackle or a wide receiver or whatever else. Like that I think is totally fair, but I'm not going to get into the value conversation on Thomas. If you want to say that about an Arian Smith and �'𝐶𝐞𝐞 𝐫𝐞𝐫𝐢 and all those guys, like, okay, I'll give you that one. But 73, while I had my gripes about them not going receiver at that point, Thomas is likely a very good football player.
Taps Any Button says, we're going to be playing man and blitz. We will draft and sign players fitting that scheme. Press and pressure with man coverage. Concerned with our linebackers. Yeah, I'm curious to see how many times our linebackers are going to flex out into coverage and how many times we're going to be able to really like keep them home. Like how many times are we going to be playing nickel with our secondary pieces? We have enough secondary pieces. Obviously, with Michael Carr II, you drafted A.Z. Thomas, you got Stevens, you got your safeties, so you can have a plethora of defensive backs where you may not have to rely so heavily on the linebackers to cover players. But I think that's going to be, some degree of a concern. I'd rather have our linebackers be more of the blitzer, let Quincy Williams pin his ears back and go after the quarterback, as opposed to allowing, our linebackers maybe to get, giving up yardage or whatever in pass protection, or not pass protection, in pass coverage. Bean, your thoughts on the man/blitz schemes we'll be going towards, and are you concerned with our linebackers heading into this year?
Yeah, I'm concerned. Well, I think I think it's important. They brought in Jamin Davis. Like Jamin Davis is here again. He's a first round pick. It didn't work in the previous spot. He struggled. But there's a reason he was a first-round pick. And he wasn't a first-round pick like Takk McKinley 10 years ago, whatever it was. He was a first-round pick like 3 years ago. Maybe 4 at most. So I think there's a lot of question marks on this team. So I'm concerned about the whole thing, to be honest with you, Taps Any Button. Like, I'd like to see more blitz. And, I mean, we know Quincy's a very good blitzer. Sherwood... he's done well, but I don't think we have that demon right now. But like, having, Zaire Barnes and Jamin Davis kind of get some significant playing time, see if you got somebody there. Dude, 2 years ago, let me just remind everybody, 2 years ago, I was a Jamie and Sherwood guy. People, I shit you not, man. People were ripping me. Oh yeah, he's another Mimsy, that kind of thing. Right. So it doesn't always look so clear. You know what I mean? Like, guys got to develop. It takes guys some time. And that's why they are later round picks, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th round picks, because it takes time if they're going to make it at all. Right. So I think we're going to see what we got in these guys. Clearly. I mean, maybe they bring somebody else in. They did bring in Francisco, who goes by 𝐒𝐶𝐞𝐽, right? So let's call him 𝐒𝐶𝐞𝐽. They brought 𝐒𝐶𝐞𝐽 in. Let's see what he's got. Dom C's not all that high on him. He's special teams at most. You know what I mean? That's what he is. Special teamer. You're really hoping he doesn't get too much playing time. So, hey, Yeboah got a contract there, Danger Zone. All right. Yeboah got signed. All right. So I don't want to hear it. All right. I don't want to hear it.
We got Moose City coming in.
I want to hear it.
Thanks so much, Moose City. Dropping a 20 spot. Says, hey, guys, I think this new regime has an idea of what they want to do. I think they went to get players they wanted in Smith and Moore, and I can't hate that. Smith is a burner, and if he can catch, we will be happy. If you could figure out the drops situation with him, and he lowers that drop percentage, that pick's going to look a lot better in a year or two's time. The nice thing is I don't think we're going to have to rely on him as a receiver much this year. I think we will see him a lot on special teams and maybe more as a decoy to allow some other guys to get open. And hopefully they can work on it. I think the more value was really nice as well. Matt, your thoughts on the regime going after the guys they wanted, maybe regardless of the how the board was falling?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty obvious on the third day. And with Malachi Moore, like that's where he should have went. Like that's a good spot for him to go. So I don't have any issue with the Malachi Moore one. The criticism with the Arian Smith isn't necessarily that you like it's okay to like a player that, you know, we have our doubts on, but it's not just Jet fans who are going, Arian Smith's not fourth rounder. It's, you know, all these guys who do rankings, and when you're that far off the consensus, it's usually not a great sign. I feel like it's rare that you see, oh, this guy should have went in the 7th round. He goes in the 4th and he's a stud. Like the Jets took Christian Hackenberg in the 2nd round. Everyone thought he was a late day 3 quarterback, and the guy never played a snap on the field. Now, different regime. I'm not going to say that, you know, Darren Mushi and Aaron Glenn or Mike McCagnon. That's not fair to them. But this is their first draft. We'll see if this continues to be a trend. I hope that's not the case. I hope they learn to play the board better the more experience they get drafting.
Bean, any thoughts on the regime going after specific guys as opposed to maybe, you know, allowing the board to fall to them?
Yeah, see, like, so this is the message I hear. I don't hate them making sure they get, like, if there's a guy that like this is our like, it's fine to feel that way. But when you do that across the board, like, you know, it felt like that, like they traded up twice. And what do we look at? We're like, oh, really? You traded up twice in this? And a 2026 5th to accomplish this, right? Feel like that. So the message that I hear is this, and I could be wrong, but this is what I deduce, is that they fell in love with some guys and they have enough intel on a lot of other guys to override that emotionally based thought. You know, emotions are stupid and you can't get emotional. Oh man, I fucking love this guy. You can't do that. You got to be objective. And so there were players taken 257. We got 7 of them. You're telling me that 250 players didn't make sense? You know, obviously there's players taken before you know, that's not exactly accurate, but I don't know, man. It just, to me, it doesn't jive. And that philosophy, you don't hear that. Like, oh, you know, there's a couple ways you do the draft. You know, you draft for need and you draft for best player available. You know, you don't hear you find 5 guys and you fall in love with them and you trade up and you do whatever you got to do to get them all. Like, you don't hear about that tactic very often because it's not a good tactic, Moose City, you know? And again, maybe that's not exactly what happened, and we're making a lot of shit up right now. But again, to use 2 trade-ups. So what we did was this 7 players cost us 9 picks. Does that look like 9 picks worth of players to you? Does it to you, Ryan?
It's hard to tell, right? Like it's a cop-out.
It's hard to tell, like, sure.
You know,
but
I don't
for
love,
today,
for the 4 back-end players that cost us some picks, I'm not so sure. Like, if you want to say those 4 players cost us, what, 6? Is that kind of what it is? Because we had 7, 42, and 73 already. Would that be the, like, calculus?
Well, we used 2-6 to trade up.
Correct.
And we used next year's 5th somehow.
But that would have been on the final 4 picks. So, like, I can sort of rationalize, hey, you know, we got 7 guys for 9 picks. But when you start filtering it down to, like, okay, we got 4 guys with 6 picks, and you show me the 4 guys we got, I'm like, I don't know if I love that. Like the back 4.
I would have just stayed
trade
and
up for
took
Membu
my
or
fucking,
Taylor or Thomas.
We had 8 picks.
Yeah.
Just pick them.
Mumtaz comes in and says, we got O-line, but D-line has 2 holes, so only 50% functional. It'll make our secondary and linebackers look bad like last year. Preston Smith and Hubbard still free agents. Yeah, I mean, I'd also like to take a look at Zadarius Smith. Like, there's a few guys in free agency that I hope the Jets try to kick the tires on. I just don't know if some of these guys are going to try and wait for, like, teams that might be a little more competitive. I think this year is definitely going to be an evaluation year for the regime, and they're not going to overinvest in any one particular position or go too outside the box with their draft picks and stuff. So I don't know. As far as the D-line goes, I've said it before, I don't really care if we lose some games because of our defense, as long as our offense looks like it's a nurturing environment for a young quarterback, whether that be Justin Fields or the future. I'm all about the offense for this season. Matt, any thoughts on maybe our D-line not being up to where it needs to be, and the potential of our secondary and linebackers maybe looking bad this year?
Well, my question would be, what's the two holes on the defense?
I would bet
the defense.
I would bet he's thinking one tech and maybe another edge, maybe.
Right, but if I'm looking, they definitely could use another edge. I agree, but I'm thinking like a rotational edge, like a third guy, like you mentioned, Zadarius Smith. That'd be a great add for the Jets at this point. And he played with Aaron Glenn a bit last year in Detroit, so you have that connection, which is important. But Johnson, Quinnen, and McDonald is pretty good 3. You need another. I thought they needed someone who could be a starter. I don't know if Nandi is that. I think he's going to play a decent amount. I think he's okay. But I definitely think they need another defensive tackle potentially. Unless they just feel like we're good. We're going to rotate a mix of, Taylor and Nandi and Cowart, who you got from the Chicago Bears. And we're going to be fine with that last defensive tackle spot, kind of just be, a rotating door. I don't think they're 50% functional. And plus, too, something we mentioned about a few comments ago with the blitzing, that should help the secondary and linebackers, because the Jets defense last year, they had their holes on the defensive line, especially after the Jermaine Johnson injury, and they never blitzed. So it was kind of like those guys were left out to dry. I think they'll combat it a little bit more with their increased blitzing.
We've got Jake. Jake says, just got here. Why we get no fatty? We had Watson, Stackhouse, Simmons in free agency. At least I won the eggs this weekend. Jake, if you haven't reached out to us, make sure you reach out to us so we can get your shipping information so we could send you some eggs from your spin wheel victory. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bean, what are your thoughts on our fatties up front on the defensive line?
I can't believe we chose eggs. Is there a harder item to ship?
Eggs is open-ended. It could be plastic eggs. It could be rotten eggs. It could be green eggs and ham. I'm keeping it open-ended.
That's brilliant. Okay. I like that. Yeah, dude, like I mentioned it earlier, and I know we all talk about it. I'm really trying not to be a grumpkin. I'm not. I am. I'm trying not to be. But the deepest tackle draft in memory, if not ever, and we didn't get one. That's weird. It's just a weird thing. We were double dipping in our mocks because it was so deep a lot of the time. I think after free agency, we a lot of us, myself, I know, lessened a little bit, but I was still taking one. I was still grabbing one. I just, a little bit later, I love to get my big fat fatties in the 5th and 6th round. So I was like, okay, well, we're just going to do that. I'm totally fine with it. But we ended up not getting one. That last pick, I was convinced was going to be a defensive tackle. When it was an edge, I was like, okay, well, defensive line, but I don't know. I think you get more bang in the buck later with your fatties, So I'm surprised too, Jake. I really am.
Kenneth comes in, says 4-5 offsuit can beat a pocket pair. Never know until the hand is played. Players drafted this weekend haven't played it down yet. Let the hand play out. Yeah, hey, look, this draft could be one of the better drafts, if the players hit and do the right things. I remember hearing back in 2010, whenever Russell Wilson was drafted, it was like Russell Wilson, Bruce Irvin, and there was another player. There was like 3 or 4 players from that Seattle Seahawks draft, and everyone was like, they didn't have a good draft. It wasn't great. And then it was like all pro. It's like, so who knows? Let it play out. Maybe we are pleasantly surprised. Douglas says, saw that Quinnen and Quincy had a younger brother, has been extended a minicamp invite. No idea if he can play, but a great human interest story. Heck, maybe he makes the practice squad or something like that. Or maybe he balls out and he's got a little bit of his brothers in him. That'd be nice. I don't know anything about him, so I couldn't tell you what position he plays. Do either of you guys know anything about this third Williams brother?
I don't.
And does his name start with a Q? These are the important questions that we need to ask.
Yeah.
Are you looking it up, Matt?
No.
Giovanni.
Giovanni with a Q. Understood. Understood.
Yeah.
Swamp Ranger comes in and says, if we finish with a top 5 pick in the 2026 draft, how excited to draft a quarterback will you be, and how much faith in this regime will you lose? I mean, I would be hyped to go after a quarterback next year. I think that's like kind of what we're looking at. Depending on if we wind up with like, if we get a top 10 pick, I would have to think the selection is going to be quarterback. And we might be trading up to do it. Like, I'm going to be amped up for next year's draft, I think, regardless. And how much faith do I have in the regime? I mean, it would be their quarterback swing, right? Like, it's got to work out. Your regime is only as strong as the pick you make at quarterback at some point. Bean, your thoughts on if we finish with a top 5 pick, how excited would you be if we go after a quarterback? And do you lose any faith in this regime?
No, they took a swing this year. Got to get rid of Aaron Rodgers, and they took a swing. You know, I applaud it, even if it doesn't work this year. Yeah, if we have a top 5 pick, it's definitely going to be because our quarterback didn't do so well. I would imagine, right? It's going to be like, okay, this ain't the guy. You know, if he's playing lights out and we have a top 5 pick, that's going to be an interesting scenario, wouldn't you say?
Matt, what about you? Top 5 pick? How's it playing out? You gonna be excited if we going after a quarterback next year?
Yeah, I would. And I think that's going to be how we spin it, right? Like if the Jets are really bad this year, I saw a way too early mock that had the Jets with the number 1 pick. I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think the Jets have the worst record in the league in 2025. Hey, the Jets will have their pick of the litter of a really good quarterback class. That's intriguing to me, but I understand where Swamp Ranger is coming from, right? Because that comes at a cost. Like if they're 2-15 this year, I'm sure we'll have our doubts about Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn. So I'm kind of hoping for they're competitive and maybe have to make their move to trade up for a quarterback, and then that hits. I think that's kind of your best of both worlds, where you get some signs of life in year 1, and then year 2 they get aggressive, find their long-term answer, and go from there.
Bean, I'm going to throw this to you, and then I know you got to head out of here. Cuca Lake says we should be happy that we are mad about a 4th-round pick. This team filled needs and targeted players for specific reasons. 1 to 2 questionable picks is okay. Bean, this is feels true. Like we could have had questionable picks in the 1st, 2nd, or 3rd round. What are your thoughts on this year's draft? And maybe only being mad about a 4th-round pick isn't the worst case scenario.
Well, no, I think he's 100% right. And the truth is that we did do good work on the front end. We went into round 4, at least I did, legitimately excited. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, man, these guys know what they're doing. They're getting, really good talent. They're getting a couple names that we were really focused on, which is nice. Yeah, I think, if that's what we're complaining about, by comparison, totally fine. Again, the opportunities were there. So it's bigger than that, Cuca Lake. I know that's a simplistic and positive spin, and I agree, but you can't it's not in a vacuum here. Like there were some really quality players on the board and they chose otherwise. So it's aggravating. But again, if you had to choose, you'd choose it to be aggravated where we are, as opposed to like, why did they take a guy with a 2nd-round grade at pick 7? That kind of a shit. And we've seen weird stuff like that with the Jets before.
Bean, any last words before you get on out of here?
I'm going to drop this into the chat, into our chat. Let me see. Where the hell did you guys go? The list.
Ah, good man.
Here we go. Here's where we are. You could probably do one or 2 more winners. You know what I mean? I might be 1 or 2 behind. I just refreshed. But anywho, listen, I'm sorry I'm bouncing early, guys. I got to go lay down. I tried to make it. I got to go lay down.
Dude, it's
So,
all right. You feel
but
better.
I love you guys. We did it. We made it. We made it through it. It's not the worst thing in the world. You know, we're all right. We got 𝐒𝐿𝐽𝐬, everybody.
Green Bean, feel better, brother.
All right. I'll see you guys.
All right. So we got finish up 𝐒𝐿𝐽𝐬's thoughts here. Matt, your thoughts on maybe it's not the worst thing that we are mad at a 4th round pick.
No, I think you're allowed to be mad at the 4th round pick. And while hold on, let me throw the caveat in there. While still acknowledging the things that they did well, you can't go, "Oh, this draft class sucks," just off that one thing. But if you go, "Hey, I liked that they did this, this, and this. I wish they did X, Y, Z instead," that's fair. I think that's, you know, a legit criticism. And the thing that I don't like, and I'm not saying hate to just hate, right? Like that's stupid also. But I think you should be able to be critical and like talk through the reasons why you either like something or don't like something. Just because your favorite team picks a guy doesn't mean that they're geniuses and they know all. Like, well, obviously we'll see how it plays out. And I want all these guys to be awesome, but if you have a legitimate gripe with a player, I think you could voice that.
100%. John, Moose City, Swamp Ranger, and Landon, I'll be right back to you. Just going to throw in Boogie Down Bronx. Thank you so much for the 20 spot. It says, I wish we could model our draft like the Ravens do. They get very good players at incredible value, and they always are picking in the late 20s. Yeah, that'd be a wonderful problem to have. We wind up finding ourselves in these situations where it's like we need these particular players, 1st or 2nd round players, to fill key needs or fill key starting roles. And I feel like the Ravens are just reloading and adding good players and bumping out players that are on higher contracts as opposed to losing players or needing to find players because of poor drafting in other years. The Ravens and the Eagles are 2 teams I would love to model our teams after. Matt, your thoughts on how the Ravens pick good players year in and year out?
Every year, man, it's so damn frustrating. I feel like throw the Steelers in there too. Maybe not this year. I didn't think they had an amazing draft, but I feel like we say it every year we're on where it's like one of our guys comes off the board. It's damn it, they went to Philly, or damn it, they went to Baltimore. Who was it? The safety that fell to the Ravens with Malachi Starks, right? In the first round. Aligning them up with Kyle Williams is like, how do we let this happen again in the NFL? That like this awesome guy falls to them. So that'd be great if they get to the point where they just are hitting on picks, obviously the top end ones, but even finding talent beyond round 1.
John says the 49ers took 2 players in the 3rd round that were graded out as 7th round picks. Teams across the league reach on traits. We are overreacting. Yeah, and I also think there's a little bit to be said about the depth of this draft and the like varying degree of grades that were given to prospects. Now, the Arian Smith one does feel like the biggest of reaches because I think there was a lot of undrafted free agent talk about him, but the speed is elite. So, you know, the stupid saying is you can't teach speed. If you can teach the guy to use a jugs machine and he can utilize that speed to help the other guys on the team, even if he's not like wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3, but can at least clear out some of the zones. I think there's traits that you can reach on that might generate value from other players that may be a bigger net positive in certain respects. The 4th round, I'm having a hard time justifying that, but that's the spin I'm going to have on it. Matt, your thoughts on how everyone maybe reached a little bit on certain guys?
Well, the 49ers is a poor example, I think, because they had a shitty draft. So, like, I don't know if we are overreacting. I think we're reacting appropriately. I think if you look around the league, most guys are giving their draft a C, and I would tend to agree. I didn't think they had a good draft. In fact, they went so defense heavy with Robert Saleh back there. You know, they went defensive line a bunch of times. They took a linebacker as well, and yeah, teams reach, but I think those teams are criticized just as much. I think we just hear the Jets ones more because that's the team we care about. The most and are most in tune with what other people are saying about them.
Moose City says, weirdly, I have a lot of confidence in AG's ability to coach up these players and the flaws they have. I mean, that's the hope, right? Until proven otherwise. Like if they go out there and all of a sudden all their draft picks look like dog crap, or guys that have played well in the past are now underperforming, then you can start judging things. But the idea is hopefully the offensive staff was so poorly coached that having an offensive staff in here this year, or having slight tweaks to like how you play defense overall, hopefully the new voice in the room galvanizes this team and you're able to, see them get more than what we saw last year. Because I do think the team is better than what we saw last year. And how many times during the course of like the middle part of the season we're like, man, this team is just so poorly coached. Like the amount of penalties, the amount of false starts, the amount of like game clock errors, like just getting those things out of the way will put the Jets in a far better situation on a situation by situation basis within a game. So yeah, Matt, any thoughts on AG's ability to coach players up or have some confidence?
I hope so, because we saw with the last coach, even with, Robert Saleh had his flaws. I think, everyone, even the most positive of Saleh guys would admit that, but something you could say as a positive for him, he got a lot out of guys, and guys not in the first round, that they developed talent. Quincy Williams, I was going to say UDFA. He was drafted, but it was a waiver wire find. They developed UDFAs. They developed mid-round picks. So, yeah, it's definitely possible. And I think where I give him the benefit of the doubt is in the secondary. So the Moore pick, the AZ Thomas pick, and guys like that, I'll have optimism that he can get the most out of players like that.
Swamp Ranger says, LMAO, Google Adam Gase, and look at the picture. This is the picture that pops up when you Google our once fearless leader, the Gase of Adam. Don't miss that guy. Landon comes in, says, any interest in Keenan Allen or Cooper for a vet wide receiver? Not so much Keenan Allen. I'm not so sure he'd come East Coast anyway. I think he's more likely to retire if he doesn't end up with like the Chargers or a West Coast team at this point. Cooper, maybe depending on price. I really don't think the Jets are going to utilize wide receiver 2 all that much. So unless you're getting a guy that you think could be here alongside Garrett for the foreseeable future, I don't know if I necessarily care if they spend extra money that could otherwise be allocated toward Garrett or Sauce or JJ or Brees or AVT. Like, I don't want to burn money just to burn money when I don't think we're going to utilize the player. Matt, your thoughts on adding a vet wide receiver to like a Keenan Allen or an Amari Cooper?
I think Cooper is just about done. He looked really rough in Buffalo at the end there. Keenan Allen looks like he could still play, but he's exclusively in the slot. He's a smaller receiver, and I think they like to move Garrett around. So I don't know if either of them are really fits. I'm open to the idea, and I know we talked about this on draft weekend, of maybe trading for a wide receiver, like calling up Green Bay and seeing if one of their 6 receivers are available. They spent, relatively high draft capital on. Romeo Doubs would be my choice there. Not that he's stellar, but I think give you 40 catches and 600 yards in his sleep. And I don't know if the Jets have that right now on their roster, but I don't think I'm going to go the aging vet approach at the wide receiver position.
Jake says, was good till I woke up Saturday. Loved Thursday and Friday. Yeah, look, loved the first 2 days of the draft. Underwhelmed with day 3, but I try not to let the day 3 really rub me too much, because think about the percentage of hitting on your first round pick. It's around 50%. And then it gets progressively worse as you go throughout the draft. So the chances of you hitting on 4th through 6th round picks or 4th through 7th round picks are already pretty low. So I don't want to overemphasize day 3, but I also don't want to underestimate the value that could be had on day 3. And Bean really hit it home with that 4th round. There's a lot of guys that fall out of the top 3 rounds during that first top 15 picks in the 4th round, especially after you get a day to digest things or a night to digest things before the day 3 starts. I think a lot of fans are probably feeling the Thursday, Friday love and not so much the Saturday side of things. Jake says, we've had Zach Kuntz on the practice squad for 2 years as the only tight end to ever get a 10 RAS. He can't catch. At least he was a 7th rounder. Smith pick is insane. It's insane in the fact that like it was wildly overdrafted. Like Kuntz was a stab at a high RAS guy in the 7th round, and it's a worthwhile swing. With Smith, he's probably not there if he can catch. Like if you put that kind of speed on tape, and it's not just like straight line speed, like he plays that fast. He is a very, very fast wide receiver. That is a trait that's going to help other players on the offense, even if he's not the one catching the ball or getting the ball. But if he's able to figure out the drops, if they are just mental, then he's worth way more than a 4th round pick. It's just a matter of like, what have you done for me? And we're obviously drafting off what they did in college, and I think we are hoping to strike gold on a guy that we may end up getting burned on if he doesn't figure out the drops. Matt, your thoughts on Kuntz and like how his value in the 7th round is so wildly different than Arian Smith in the 4th round?
Yeah, there's a difference between a player taken at like 104. I mean, you had it pulled up. Do you remember what pick number Arian Smith was? Just
110.
Yeah, 110 and 240 is a little different, right? Like that at 110, and we talked about some of the names that were still there. It's unfortunately you can't do the what if he could catch, because if that's the case, then he would have been a pick in round 1 or on day 2, but that's not a reality. And also, not for nothing too, but there's injury history with this player too. So you have the drop issues and you have the injury concerns, which is the negative side. The positive that the Jets see is this guy's, we know he's a good special teamer and we think he's fast as hell, and they're confident that they could fix him. I hope they're right. I really, really do, because if they hit on him, fantastic, right? They need a lot of wide receiver help. It's a positional group that really, frankly, isn't very good outside of Garrett Wilson. So I just hope they're right with this.
O'Regan 11 says, I do think they got 3 future starters. I'll do you one better. I think they got more than that, because I do think that our first 3 picks are definitely going to start. I think there's a really good shot Malachi Moore starts. And then I would say our undrafted free agent in at least the kicker may wind up being our guy. And the Jets may have had a bunch of starters in that respect. I do think that Barron could push Clemens off the roster. It's not necessarily a starter, but I think that's a net positive. I think Arian Smith is, I mean, it just is what it's going to be. Who's he going to bump off? Like a Gibson or a Brownlee or someone towards the back end of the roster? I don't know if that's like, am I going to lose sleep over Brownlee leaving? Like, I think some of these things are net positives, even if they're not necessarily future starters. Not that you were necessarily saying anything against that, O'Regan, yeah. But Matt, how many starters do you think the Jets got, or potential future starters did they get?
I'm going to say this year 2, for sure, in the top 2 guys. I think this year AZ Thomas is like a depth player. He'll get his reps, right? There's injuries and certain packages he'll come in, but unless we get official word that Stevens is moving from corner to safety, I'm going to assume that Stevens is going to start at corner. I do think eventually AZ Thomas can be a starter for this team. Moore, I think, also has a chance to be a starter, but I'll go conservative and say 2, the top 2 guys. But, you know, if you ask this question 2 years from now, the answer might end up being 4. And that's not counting, like, you know, the potential of the kicker there too.
Mm-hmm. Let's see what else we got talking in the chat. I see you guys were talking about Mims and Moore not being reaches.
Yeah, because we were wrong about Denzel Mims and Elijah Moore, who, you know, I liked Denzel Mims. I thought he was a first round guy that fell to the second. But the point that I was trying to make is that they weren't, yes, they didn't work out, but they weren't reaches for where they were taken, right? There's a difference. You could have a good process and a guy just not work out for you, or you could take someone who's supposed to be a 7th rounder in the 4th round and spin it that it's actually a good thing because you were once previously wrong about a guy who was drafted where he was supposed to be, and he wasn't a good player. So that was really more the overarching point that I was making, is that, yeah, neither of them worked out with the Jets, but they weren't reaches. The process wasn't off. It just unfortunately didn't work out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, who knows? Maybe the players themselves should not have been graded in the second, but the consensus across multiple big boards was that they are second-round picks, and the Jets did not reach. Mims was even considered in the first round by a lot of people around the league. So to watch that draft class kind of fall down, I think we were all pretty excited about Mims. More, excited because of the position. I don't think I was as high on that pick as Mims. And I think honestly Moore showed more than Mims did, and I was, I can definitely say I was more high on the Mims side of things. Let's see. Just going through the chat here, seeing what we got. If Green Bay likes Arian Smith, I'll go 1-for-1 with Dobbs.
Yeah, sure. But what about, I mean, they have 1 million 6th-round picks next year. They take a 6th-round pick. I mean, I know that sounds crazy. You go, oh, well, Matt, you just said this guy can start, maybe give you 600 yards, and you're offering a 6th-round pick. Like, look at some of these trades. The guys don't give you a huge return. So I don't know if they could use one of their day 3 picks in next year's class and find a starting receiver. I think it's worth it.
Ryan had a pretty funny comment here. He goes, everything went to shit when they started drafting guys that can go to a bar. The first 3 guys are all under 21 years old. Although I think Bembu actually is 21 now. I
think early May he turns 21. Most of these guys will eventually turn 21 before the start of the season. But yeah, there was a trend the first 2 days. They were going young, and they were going guys with athleticism, which I don't hate that process. I think that makes a lot of sense.
No, we have needed a little bit of help in that area for a while. I saw a comment in here. Let's see, where was it? Jets366 says, I'm actually excited about Brady Cook. I would say I'm excited in the same way I was excited about Jordan Travis. Like, I'm not expecting a whole lot. It's a dart throw, not even late. I mean, it was an undrafted free agent. But let me pull up. I think I have, let me see if I can share my screen appropriately. Let's see if this will do it. All right. So,
Brady Cook.
Come on here. Show some of the grades that he has, because I feel like it was like pretty exciting given the, like, I would say just lack of.
So while you're getting that ready, I spoke to someone today who covers Missouri, and we spent most of the time talking about Armand Membu, but I did ask him at the end about Brady Cook because UDFA out of Missouri, and something that he mentioned was he really struggled with injuries this year. So that's a factor into a little bit of the regression. I think he was better last year in 2023 than he was this past season.
He's mobile too. He fits the bill similar to like a Fields backup than I think like a Kyle McCord would have. And we saw a lot of fans really want to gravitate towards him. Look, if Cook can provide us, either a Tim Boyle-esque practice squad guy or potentially a long-term backup option, like, I'm on board. I'm excited with it. I think it's important just to keep it all in perspective. You're not looking for anything crazy from the guy either. Jake says, I think we did get 3 solid stars, which is a good draft. If so, still doesn't forgive the second day. I'm going to assume you mean the third day.
It's gotta be.
Yeah, I don't know what the average like amount of starters is from a draft, but like for our Jets, I feel like it's always been like, oh, if we find 1 or 2, we're happy.
Yeah, it's usually just the first round pick, and sometimes that's not even a given.
Yeah. AZ next year, I think he might actually be better than Stevens. Yeah, that's the hope, right? You draft a guy in the 3rd and hope you can kind of bump out the veteran that's maybe, costing you a little bit more.
Yeah, and Stevens got the 3-year deal. That's really more like a 2-year deal with how it's structured. Like I said with AZ, I don't know if he starts this year. I think he plays, but I think their plan is to have long-term Sauce and AZ be the starting outside duo. Like Thomas really plays how I think Glenn wants his corners to. He's big, he's physical at the line of scrimmage. He's hard to get off, your routes off against him. Assuming they're going to play a lot of man press coverage, the combo makes sense.
Zachary says, at least we have fun preseason quarterbacks in Travis and Cook. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing both of them, honestly. Like, as much as I want to see Fields, Tyrod, I could care less if he plays any snaps in the preseason. But really, I would say those three guys, seeing Fields, seeing Travis, seeing Cook, and just what could potentially be with these young quarterbacks. Can anyone elevate their game? Obviously, Fields is going to be the starter, but I'm looking forward to preseason. I think there's a lot of guys, not even just from the quarterback position, but I'm excited to see how Olu progresses and how Membu looks, and I'm curious to see what this regime or how this regime handles preseason comparatively to a regime that has Aaron Rodgers and Super Bowl aspirations. Like, we might see our starters play far more this preseason than we did in years past. Matt, your thoughts?
Yeah, we might see some Justin Fields, right? Like, I know that he's the starter, and they've said that as such, which again makes sense with the money that they gave him and everything. But I think he should play. He hasn't earned the right to not play in the preseason like Aaron Rodgers did previously. And in the second half of games, Zachary's spot on, man. I want to see Travis. We didn't get a chance to see him last summer, and that would have been exciting. And then this year with Cook, you just see if there's anything there, right? Like, there's nothing to lose with that. You brought him in as a UDFA. If he beats out Travis to be quarterback 3, so be it. This regime didn't draft Jordan Travis. They don't owe him anything. So I'm excited to see what both guys do.
Jake says, I like Cook in the offense we're running as QB3. Yeah, and that's kind of what we're saying too. Like, I'm just looking for someone to be the backup. In my mind's eye, like, if something were to go down with Jordan Travis, with Justin Fields, if it's like a 1 or 2 game thing, I want Tyrod in there. If it's going to be like a season long thing, like, if you really feel like you need to grade the roster, Tyrod's your guy. But like, I'd almost be more interested in seeing whoever quarterback 3 is at that point, because you're not really getting a whole heck of a lot long-term potential or return on investment with Tyrod. What are your thoughts, Matt, on the 3 quarterback room?
Yeah, I think the top 2. I think really the only thing is whether it's going to be Cook or Travis. And like I said, I don't have an allegiance to either one of them. I think you see in training camp and the preseason who looks better of the 2. Your point with Tyrod, it depends on what you want to do, right? Like, do you want to use the rest of the year? Like, let's say, God forbid, they aren't very good, or Justin Fields gets hurt, or Justin Fields is really ineffective. If the Jets are playing great defense, they're 3-4 through 7 games, and Fields is just horrible, then you're probably going to Tyrod to be like, hey, like, we're trying to save our season here. Now, different scenario, if you're 3-9, right, heading into the final month, and you want to make a change at quarterback, then you're right. Like, I don't know what playing Tyrod really does for you. So it depends on the circumstance, but I would, at that point, right, like, I would rather see Cook or Travis. And if you're in the last month of the season and you have 4 wins, then yeah, play the young guy.
Ryan says, as long as the concrete feet are gone, good riddance. Yeah, at least being able to move around the pocket should help our guys get open a little bit more. Now, that being said, the accuracy of the quarterback and the quarterback knowledge going from Rodgers to Fields is going to change our mindset a little bit. And I think we're probably going to have to get used to seeing more of the Zach Wilson type stat lines than what we had seen, the last year or so.
There's going to be some games where he frustrates you. Like, even if Justin Fields is good, or like the better version of himself, like, what was that, 2022, I guess, his second year with Chicago, and then when he was with Pittsburgh, yeah, they were winning games in Pittsburgh, and there were he had some really nice games, but there were also some where he was like, man, like, he is just missing throws today. It's probably going to be a little up and down, and you might have to live with it because, the circumstances that the Jets are in.
Oh, he was saying funny. I was referring to Clemens, but yeah, it works for quarterbacks too. Concrete feet with Clemens.
That's great. It does work with quarter. My mind went quarterback too, but Clemens is also appropriate for that too.
Mike says, I don't think Jets fans realize just how bad we're going to be this season. Hopefully that 26 draft class lives up to its billing. Yeah, look, that's one of the reasons I didn't want to give up a 2026 first in anything we were trying to do. I think this team probably has a better shot at going a top 10 pick than not having a top 10 pick. Like, I don't think we're getting to 8 or 9 wins. I think it's a really hard season. I know we definitely have the AFC North. I don't know offhand what the other division is we're playing, but I'm pretty sure this is a harder schedule than we've had in recent years. And it's also, a quarterback trying to figure it out with a new team and a head coach who's trying to figure it out. Like, I'm sure we're going to see a bunch of penalties and we're going to see, mental lapses in challenging plays or questionable decisions or whatever. So I do think we're probably more in line. I think 5.5 wins is probably a correct over-under. I'd probably take the over and say 6, but I could easily see a top 10 pick in our future. Matt, what do you think?
Top 10, I think, yeah, there's a pretty good shot of that. They won 5 games and picked 7. We've seen them go, 7-10 a couple times, and they picked, 10th 2 years ago, and then it was 13, and then they traded with Green Bay, and it ended up being 15. I think they're going to win probably 7. I'm going to say 7 or 8. Again, like, we're still so far out, that's subject to change. But is that what Mike is saying here? Like, the Jets are going to be bad and he means a 6-win team? Or is he like, the Jets are going to be bad and he means like a 2-win team? Because I think there's a difference. I don't think they're going to, he's saying I see 3 or 4 wins at the most. Then I just completely disagree. I don't agree with this assessment in the slightest.
Yeti was saying, but what if we actually had a kicker that's 3 more wins? Yeah, but that's also if you have Aaron Rodgers and like a lot of other things going in your favor. Jets 7385 says AFC North and NFC South. So the NFC South will have an opportunity there. I think the Saints game's up for grabs. I still think the Carolina game's up for grabs. I don't fully trust Bryce Young yet. Falcons game, we don't really know what Penix is going to be going into year 2. And then who am I missing? The Bucs is probably going to be a loss. They're a good team right now. Jake says, I'm ready to lose. I just want watchable. I've been saying since last season end, I just am on team entertain me. I would like to feel like I'm not wasting my Sundays. Like, no joke, once we got to like October last year, I was miserable watching football. Like, and that's not where I want to be. I just want to be entertained the entire time. I don't need a zillion stat line things, but like, if this team is fun to root for and it looks like they're having fun, we're winning a few games here and there, like, or at least staying competitive. Like, I don't want to see us get blown out left, right, and sideways. Like, I don't want to see like a Jets-Bills game where we just get throttled. So I don't know. I'm team entertain me, Matt, for next year.
Yeah, I'm going in with like, obviously last year I was going in with playoff aspirations and like not just sneaking to the playoffs. Like, thought they're going to win 11 games a year ago. So expectations were really high. This year, I think they're going to win 7 games. So expectations very different. So if they and not all 7-win seasons are built the same too. Like, I think we felt very different about, how they limped to the finish line in 2022 when they started, what was it, like 7-4? If the Jets are just like competitive and they're losing games because, unfortunately Justin Fields isn't good and they need to find a quarterback. If the Jets pick 15th and you're going, okay, like there's some things that I like here, they just need to get a quarterback. I could live with that.
Yeah, expectation has to be shifted a little bit there. Boys and girls, we have gotten to the end of our stream, so we get to pick a qualifier for our giveaway. Matt, how many qualifiers do we have?
33.
33. All right. So I'm going to hit generate 3 times, and on the third generate, then that will be our qualifier. 1, 2, number 29. Who's number 29?
Jake.
Jake. He's going to have an opportunity at eggs.
Again.
Let's see what he gets. Whoa. Eggs.
Eggs. Double eggs.
Are we doing double eggs or are we doing the 3 spin? I think we're doing the 3 spin, right? We'll try to get, if you get eggs 3 times in a row. Oh, eggs.
Oh, baby. Triple egg. Triple egg.
Triple eggs. No!
Well, that's about as close as you can get.
All right, Jake's getting the shirt this time. All right, so Jake, reach out to us, get us your shipping info for the eggs and shirt that we owe you. And he goes, "Oh, mulligan. We'll do one more spin. Why not? Let's see if we can have some fun with it." I guess it's got to be a shirt.
The
Sorry,
shirt.
Jake. Reach out to us, jetstalk247@gmail.com or talkinjetshow@gmail.com. If any of our winners from our raffle can reach out to us, same email addresses, jetstalk247@gmail.com or talkinjetshow@gmail.com. We want to get you guys your winnings. Again, Amir Mahfouz, Jersey, Sean Kenny, Eric Samuelson, Ron Weiss, you guys each won a pair of Tailgate Joe season passes to his tailgate. We got Bishop, who won the 2 100 level tickets with tailgate to the home opener. Arbiv, Joey R, Vladdy P, and Swamp Ranger all win shirts. And then we got David Bruce wins a hat, Adam Phillips wins a hat, and Jake, you just won your shirt and you won some eggs. So he just emailed the titled eggs. Send the Easter Bunny, says Ryan. Matt,
Amazing.
we are at the end of our stream. Any last words for our audience here?
Hell of a show. It was a blast doing the draft with you guys over the weekend. Excited to be on here tonight and recap it, and ready for a little bit of a breather, right? Like just kind of feel like we can take a deep breath and just get back to normal here a little bit.
I love it. Boys and girls, I'm going to go get horizontal. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Please make sure you hit that like button on the way out if you've enjoyed the stream and you want to let other people know that this is a stream worth tuning into. We'll see you guys next week, 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock. This is Talkin' Jets signing off. JETS.
Just go somewhere else. I can't take this nonsense anymore. How are you going to blame the defense?
I got the pouch. Screw green bean. Damn it.
But once you get to the sausage, I feel like we're doing something.
Go Jets.
And that's the other part of this, is people are insanely jealous of this show. This show gets the best of the best, and it does a different way, with positivity.
He scores!
Ow, my head! No, come on.
What would you give up to see a Jets Super Bowl?
All of my friends and family.
Hit those milk done, boys and girls.
Freeze run.
Hold on to your underwear, ladies. And stand by, bitches. It's now time for Talkin' Jets with your hosts, Matt, Ryan, and Green Bean.
Jets!